Well, hello everyone. My name is Arushi, and I'm a grade 6 student from Toronto, Canada. I'm really interested in space, robotics, and science, and I've been making projects using those interests for the past couple of years. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about my directional dragonfly drone. So, how did I get the idea? It all started around during the COVID-19 lockdown, where I read that locusts were eating crops in Asia and Africa, in many countries in there like Kenya and India. And I heard that these locusts often travel in big swarms, and they're very fast and can travel over 100 kilometers a day. And they can change direction very quickly, so we will not know where they are next. And I thought, with COVID-19 lockdown, all those farmers and kids on the farms will be staying home. And because of the crop damage, they will be going hungry. I wanted to do something to help them. I then thought of drones for locust control. Because drones, they will be able to fly, and they will be able to follow the locusts. And drones will be able to monitor their behavior actively, so that after some time, the drones might even be able to track and predict where the locust will be next. And I've been reading on an article that locusts go away from light. So if I light up my drone at night, it can scare away the locusts. And I wanted to biomimic some kind of nature animal, as I'm very interested in environment, like maybe a bird or something. And then I suddenly thought about dragonflies. I'd heard recently that dragonflies were the best hunter in nature. Like they were even better than lions and sharks. While lions only had a 25% chance of getting their lunch, and sharks had a 50% chance, dragonflies had over a 95% chance of catching their prey. And I read on and I found out this was because of its neurons. Dragonflies have only 16 visual neurons, which makes it process information very quickly. And I was thinking maybe I could replicate these neurons using logic. So as I started getting lots of ideas, I started to make a couple of sketches to see how my dragonfly would work. So this is how I started my sketches here. And this is my final design of the drone. So you can see it's a bit similar to this one. So I first started looking at parts in my house that I can use to make my drone. I found out that I could use a Lego base as the base of my drone, and then attach some Lego pieces. But I also needed some actual hardware to make my drone fly or detect the locust. So I attached motors on each of the 4 sides of my drone. I also attached a sensor, and I connected all these components to my microprocessor Arduino. Then I would be able to program it. Making this drone, I required using a glue gun and a soldering iron a lot to put the pieces on my base. So there's 5 main steps that my drone takes to be like a dragonfly or looking for a locust. The first one is it has to actually detect the locust. To do so, it uses a camera. Right here, if you can see it. So this camera acts just like our eyes. It scans the surroundings and looks for objects. In this case, I've considered that all red objects are locusts. So if my drone sees a red object, it counts it as a locust and sends that information to the programming language Python. Python then looks and sees if there's enough red pixels in the screen to be considered as a red object. If so, then it sends that information to the logic units. The second step is it has to see the distance to the locust. To do so, I used an ultrasonic sensor. The ultrasonic sensor sends its information to another programming language, Arduino. Arduino then converts the data into a distance in centimeters so I can interpret it. Then it sends that information to the logics. The third step is the decisions, because we want to know if the drone is going to go to locust or not. If the locusts are too far away, the drone will not go after it, but look for another locust. So I use an AND logic gate for that. So if it detects a locust and if the distance is close enough, it goes forward. The fourth step is the direction, because we want to know if the prey is on its left or its right. To do so, I use the camera again. The camera looked at all the red pixels on the screen and saw their average x and y coordinates. So that way, knowing the coordinates, we can see if it's on the left, the middle, or the right. So finally, we have come to the fifth step, the drone motor controller. This was actually one of the most challenging parts because now I knew the distance to the locusts and their direction. But how do I make the drone go towards the locusts? So to do so, I used these four motors. I learned that change the speed and direction of each of the separate motors to make the drone do what I want. Then I had to actually program each of those motors to do that. And during this process, I learned a lot because I needed to know how each of the motors would function to go which direction. For example, I learned that to go in this default position, basically just hovering up, these two diagonal motors have to be clockwise and these two motors have to be anti-clockwise. And depending on how much speed I put the motors to, either it will start floating down, it will stay up, or it will start going higher. And to make all the drone go on the right direction, all the motors have to go right. But they can't go at a too high speed, otherwise my drone will just start spinning uselessly. Similarly, for the left direction, all of the motors have to go left at a not too high speed. So now this was the steps that I used to do my drone. Now to make my drone actually move, I used two programming languages, Arduino and Python. So now we have come to the demo of my dragonfly. So first I'm just going to run the code. So as I said, my drone only reacts to red objects. So if I put my hand in front, nothing will happen. Now let's try with a red object. If I put a red object in front, the motors start moving, if you can see it properly. Now, if I put the motor, if I put the red object from this side, sorry, it doesn't work always, but I'm trying to make it better right now. Unfortunately, my drone doesn't seem to be functioning that well right now.
Arushi, Arturo and I can testify that robots don't always work perfectly. So don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I think it could be, Arushi, the sun light coming from the window. It really messes up with light sensors, so it could be related, but we know, yeah.
So I'll see in the end if it works, but for now I'll go on with my presentation. So this project was actually very fun to make, but I faced a couple of challenges. One of them was that my drone is quite small, so it was difficult to keep all of the confidence on it while keeping the balance of my drone. Another thing is I learned that not all of the pins in this Arduino, my microcontroller, is pulse width modulation pins, so I cannot use all the pins to control the speed of the motors. And this is actually just the beginning of my project. I'm planning on improving it, and actually, first I would like to actually make it fly, because right now the motors aren't powerful enough to make it the drone actually fly. So maybe I'll make the drone a bit lighter. And I would also like my drone to detect shapes, not only colors, so it can get closer to detecting only locusts. And one thing I've already started for the future of my drone is, as I told you before, locusts go away from light. So I actually put a solar panel on my drone. So a couple hours ago, I was charging it. And now, if I put an object in front of it, the lights start moving because apparently it's night, because there's no light coming. I'll just verify one last time if my drone is working. Oh, yes, it's working now. So if I put it from the right direction, all the motors will start moving right. And now let me try for the other direction, the left direction. I'm just gonna wait for it to stop. Well, it doesn't seem to be working again, but at least I was able to show you one direction. So this is the end of my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I'm in awe.
Yeah.
Arushi, how did you learn to write the code? Where did you learn to code?
Well, for programming in Arduino, I started that a couple of years ago. So I mostly self-learned. So I started with basic codes like switching on a light or moving one motor. And then I started making more complex things. And I started making projects because I believe the best way to learn about a subject is to make a project out of it, because it lets me learn all aspects of it. And for Python, I went to some coding clubs like Kids Code Jeunesse, where I learned the basics of Python, and as well I started making projects. And it's only recently that I started actually combining two programming languages.
I heard you mention logic gates.
Yes.
Can you explain what they are?
So logic gates are things that make decisions. So basically, there's lots of different kinds of logic gates, like AND, OR, XOR, NOR, and all those stuff. So logic gate has two inputs. They can either be a 0 or a 1. If it's a 1, it's considered as on. So if both of the inputs are 1s in the AND gate, the gate will be true because it's an AND gate. And similarly, for the OR gate, if one of the inputs are 1, then it will be true.
Arushi, I just want to tell you, I taught robotics at the high school level. And if one of my 18-year-old high school students had done a project like you have done and understood it the way you have done it, they would have gotten an A+. I have no idea what grade I would give you.
Yeah. And actually, you know, Arushi, you're capable also of communicating, which is a very important skill on getting projects become a reality. You explained this in logic gates in like in 40 seconds, enough to be understood. Normally we will spend like a couple hours trying to make somebody, you know, just understand that it's a small thingy that makes decisions, and it's like zeros and ones. So that is impressive. I can see that you are running through the engineering design, again, biomimicry. You're getting all of these ideas from nature, and you're finding like these exciting ways on developing your designs. I mean, I just can't wait. I'm really sure that you're gonna get that thing up and flying. And once you do that, you will already be thinking like about like 5 or 10 more things that you want to put into your robot and make it like go off.
Thanks.
Arushi, I'm here to report that you have many fans in the YouTube stands, and special shout outs to see a young woman who's programming and doing engineering and robotics. So thank you for making us look good. And I have to ask, I have a sneaking suspicion that you're somebody who comes up with many ideas. How do you decide which are the ones to dive into and create the programming and the prototypes for? And what's your next idea, perhaps, that's brewing in the pipeline?
Well, for the first question, yeah, it's also true that I have many ideas coming. So what I normally try to do is I try to see for my problem, which one will do best. Like in this case, the problem was the locusts were eating crops. So whichever one would be best for that kind of problem, I would go with it. Sometimes it took me a lot of time to find that out because I had lots of ideas. And for your second question, can you repeat it, please?
Are you working on anything else that we can look forward to seeing in January, perhaps?
Well, even though this is not the weather for it, I'm planning on making a submarine very soon. So, like, I would like to measure water quality in the submarine, and I would like to dive down in the water and then take some readings and come back up.
Fantastic. Well, we should definitely stay in touch because we have an invention opportunity, a global one, this starting in January, right, Jake?
Yes.
And it's all about issues around drinking water. And it sounds like you're already thinking about water quality. And this could be a great forum for you to have conversations with some international peers who are thinking similarly. So let's definitely connect on that.
Yeah, look at it.
Arushi, I would just like to make one more comment, and it's alluding to what Professor Mendez had said earlier about your presentation skills, okay? You know a lot about electronics and coding and everything else, and frankly, that's stuff that's in your head, okay? But when your demonstration didn't work perfectly, you did not get frustrated, you did not get upset. You said, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep on going. And that shows in your heart, that shows that you have the confidence in yourself. And the combination of those two is tremendous. And with those pair of those two skills, with the confidence in yourself and the knowledge that you have, you will do amazing things. You really will. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much for being part of this. Well done.